me a favor. How have you been? The last week that I was not here.
I've been fine, but I've just been thinking and stressed about what next after I leave here.
Why are you stressed? You're the senior most now.
Imagine, Diana, I fear, because of the past problems I used to have when I go to other rehabs of relapse. I fear, what if it happens again? How am I really sure that I'm going to stand even after going through the whole process of 1 year here?
Favor, you cannot relapse. You know where God has brought you from. No. And I know you keep your trust in Him.
Sure.
Yeah, and I believe that God has a plan and a purpose for your life. My name is Diana Naswa. I'm 36 years old, 36 years of age. I work here in Teen Challenge, Kenya. I'm now a staff member here. Don't think about relapse. We don't. Only losers think about relapse. Winners don't think about relapse. 5 years ago, I came here broken, and I was totally destroyed with addictions, drugs, and which led me to do crime, prostitution, and I came here seeking help. I got help, and this is my story.
Diana Naswa, you talk about the fact that you came here broken, and basically you feel like your life was destroyed at that time. How did you reach to this point of being a drug addict, you're in prostitution and crime? How did you get there?
It's all about kutaka kufit in the crowd. Unataka kuwa among wale wase wanajulikana. I grew up as a normal child, but by the time I finished class 8, going to Form 1, that's why I met this bad company, joined them, and started these bad behaviors, got suspension from school, then expelled. Then when I was expelled, I didn't go back to school. This is in Form 2. Got a guy who promised me love and heaven, and I got pregnant at the age of 14. But he was never there for me. So because of being broken, I felt heartbroken and I felt all alone. I thought life, or one way of killing this brokenness, is I started clubbing.
At 14 years, you had started clubbing?
Yes, at 14 years, I started clubbing.
Your parents, were they against it? Did they even know that you were clubbing at 14 years?
Not really. They didn't know that I used to club, but my mom is a single mom. My dad was an alcoholic. So my mom separated from my dad, and I ran away from home and started living alone.
Do you think perhaps the separation of your parents played a big role in you wanting to go into some sense of independence? You were clubbing, you were drinking at that time. Were you affected by the separation of your parents?
Yes, every child does that. You're always happy when your parents are there. Sometimes we don't understand the pain of why they have to do it. But now I really do why they really needed to separate, and I'm glad they did. But at that point, I didn't know that, and it really affected me, being the only girl in the family. So I just wanted to be not away from home. So I think also clubbing, the fact that I was drinking with older men, for me, I call it as if I was looking for a father figure in these people, but ended up doing the wrong things.
When you look at now, at the age of 14, you're pregnant. You're telling me your parents had separated. Your dad was an alcoholic as well. How did your mom receive the news of you being pregnant?
During my pregnancy, my mom was never there. But when I gave birth to my daughter, who she's already in the university, I gave birth to my daughter and I took her home to my mom. I left her at home and I ran away.
Wow. So you left your daughter behind?
Yes.
And you ran away. Where did you run to?
I went back to another estate in Umoja, where I started living that life of clubbing, going to bars, because I had found friends who I thought they were friends, and they were showing me life, and I was never used to this kind of life, so I really enjoying this kind of life. Yeah.
And did your mom ever try to talk you out of running away, or maybe try to bring you back home?
Yes, my mom tried to bring me back home, but my mom never, when I started addiction, my mom never knew I was taking these things. So my mom thought that I just want to be alone. She tried talking to me to come back home, but I refused.
At this point, what kind of addictions were you into? Was it drugs and alcohol or both?
No, right now, at this point in time, I was doing only alcohol. It's only that I think after 1 year or 2 years later, I started doing Mira. Because by the time I'm completely addicted, I was like doing 5 types of drugs at a go. But the addiction grew slowly.
So at 14, you've given birth, you've left your child with your mother, and now you've joined a clique of ladies. How are you surviving?
We started off by buying. These older men will buy us beers. We return them for money, and later we started stealing from these older men. We'll put drugs in their alcohol, and then they sleep. We take money from them, and later that's when we joined. We found a group of gang, like boys from Kariobangi Estate, where they taught us how to rob men. Now we started robbing people.
So you do this in clubs or maybe parties? Where were you doing this?
In clubs, like we used to. You'll go in a club and drink with an older man, and then pretend that you're going to sleep with him, because some of them, they ask you to go and sleep with him. So guys will be waiting outside to steal from him.
Okay. So how long did this go on?
This went on for a very long time, until there was this law that I think it was the Michuki law, that there was shoot to kill, and until my friends started being shot. So I thought stealing in clubs was not my thing. So I found another gang of Kiamaiko guys, and we started hijacking cars.
You would hijack cars?
Yes.
So you've moved away from now putting drugs in people's drinks in a club to now you are stealing cars.
Yes, we will hijack. We will not steal cars, but we'll hijack a car and steal from the people in the car. So that, which was easy money, because our work was not that. The guys that we were with, their work was to carry the guns, and us was to just pick the wallets and the phones and anything that was valuable, like silver chains, gold earrings. Yes.
You know, Diana, one would question, was there any time that maybe you feared for your life? Because we know sometimes these things happen and people get shot by the cops and you find that someone has lost their life. Were you ever afraid of getting caught and perhaps maybe even being shot and perhaps losing your life at some point?
I don't think I've ever, at that time I ever even thought of death. I knew, because many of my friends died of gunshots, but never at one point did I even think of myself ever being shot or, I will die. Because every time the police will kill one of my friends, we will go back and revenge. With anger now. So it was never at one point did I ever even think that I will die.
When you say revenge, who are you revenging against? Is it the cops or just becoming
Raia.
even worse?
No, Raia. Like, if a cop kills one of our friends, the Raia will have to pay for it. We inflict pain on the Raia.
Is there any one point when you were caught and maybe put behind bars?
Not once, not twice. I've been in Langata Women Prison, I think more than 10 times. Yeah. I used to just to change my names. Today I'll be called Mary, tomorrow I'll be called Millicent, tomorrow I'll be called Joanne, Annette. Every time I go to Langata Women Prison, I go with a different name. So people cannot even find me when they come to look for me.
All right. So you've gone now into full crime, you're carjacking. What happens next? How long did you do the carjacking?
This thing took me about 15 years. I was in addiction for 15 years, and it took 15 years.
So during the time you were addicted, at that time when you were doing carjacking, were you still only on alcohol, or now you were doing other drugs? Like you mentioned earlier on, this point you were doing other drugs.
Yeah, I started doing Mira. Now I was doing bang, I was doing cigarettes, I was doing Masi, and alcohol.
And you mentioned that you were doing a couple of drugs at the same time. Which ones were they?
Yeah, so when I'm doing alcohol, I was doing alcohol and Mira and cigarettes and C at the same time.
How was your body able to take all that?
It was not easy. First of all, it's really, my health really deteriorated because of this. I had very bad skin, like I'll scratch myself and this powder because of my skin was very rough. Yeah, because of all these drugs. Yeah, and it reached a point that drugs now, I'm no longer in control of my life, and now drugs are in control of my life. Yeah.
As we began talking, you mentioned that you've done prostitution, you've been a drug addict, you've gone into crime. I know you have mentioned the story of crime, but at what point did you go into prostitution?
I went into prostitution before I started crime. I went into prostitution immediately when I started drinking alcohol. So sometimes you'll go with a man to a club, to a room, thinking you'll steal from him, but you don't get to steal from him. He gets to sleep with you, so you have to ask for money. So that's when I started doing prostitution, and I thought this one is also paying off. So I started prostitution, and it reached a point that it was not, even prostitution was not paying off, because if I see thug life and prostitution, thug life was really, you will get a lot of money from than prostitution. So I did prostitution at least not more than 2 years. Then I stopped and I went to thug life, like completely thug life.
And when you look at now your life in prostitution, tell us a little bit more, the experiences. Was there even a point where you ever thought about your daughter and your mother?
During prostitution, I think my conscience had died. I never even thought about my daughter. I never even thought about my family. I was just doing my own things.
In your experience in prostitution, we know that many people share stories and they talk about, like you've mentioned, some of them, they give you money, then they take it away from you. Others, perhaps also, if you've had, they share experiences where they've been beaten and, almost losing their lives. Other than your money being taken away from you, what were your other experiences in prostitution that you remember and you dread that life?
There's one time I went to an Buruburu estate with a guy and who locked me in his house, used me the way he wanted. He never wore protection. He was beating me. He was doing every manner of things to me, and I really didn't like it. I felt a lot of pain, and there was no escape through in that house. He locked everywhere, and that is the one most thing that I really didn't like about prostitution, because of going to someone in the house and you don't even know what they're going to do to you.
Were you ever afraid of maybe contracting HIV?
Yes, I was. very much. I was very afraid of getting HIV.
And Diana, during that time, did you ever maybe imagine there was something else you could do that could help you get money? Or maybe was the money too much for you to even imagine doing any other job?
No, I think I already had low self-esteem. I used to view myself as someone who can never be employed by anyone. Yeah.
Why? How did you reach to that point where you felt like you were not worth it?
The moment I started doing prostitution, I just felt unworthy. Yeah, I just felt unworthy, and I even thought no one will ever even want to love me or marry me.
At this point, how far had your drug addiction come when you are now doing prostitution? To what extent were you doing drugs at that time?
I was already an alcoholic. I could not sleep without alcohol because of the things, when you go and you sleep with men, sometimes you just want not to remember those things that you've done the previous day. So I used to drink alcohol a lot, not to remember.
When you look back now, those memories that you were trying to block with alcohol, do you remember any of them, and how have you dealt with them?
Ever since I gave my life to Christ, I have really dealt with those issues because first of all, I started by forgiving myself for harming myself, for hurting myself, for allowing myself to go all through this, because it is a choice I made. I made the wrong choice and I had to pay the consequences for it. Jesus forgave me, and I forgave the people that even hurt me. So for me today, I don't see it as, I use this story for the benefit of others. You can live this kind of life, but later you can come out, if only you can allow God and let God.
So if we look at your life in crime, and you're saying that at that time you were still doing drugs and whatnot, and I remember you've also mentioned that you left prostitution because you felt crime was paying you better. Your life in crime, I mean, if you look back at how much you were making, what would you say was your average, the average amount of money you'd make in a month?
In a month, maybe like 80 to 100,000, even more. Because sometimes you go, you stay, you get 20,000. You go, you stay. Now it's when we divide, because you don't go alone. So when you divide, you get 20,000. You go, you steal phones. You steal even phones worth up to 100,000. You go and sell for. We used to sell for a lot of money, so it's just 5K, and at least I can say up to 80,000 to 100. But all of it will go back to alcohol and drugs. There's a day I stole. It was 80,000. I was alone, but that money didn't even last for 3 days. I spent it all in alcohol. 80,000 in a day.
Did you ever do anything for yourself that you can look back and say you still have what you did?
Nothing. I don't even have a spoon of the time I was in addiction. I have nothing. Nothing. Even a dress, I have nothing.
When we began this discussion, this conversation, you mentioned that you work here at Teen Challenge, and you are a staff member here. This is where you are brought, and you're saying when you were joining the Teen Challenge rehab, you were literally broken, and as you said, you felt you were destroyed. How did you end up here at the Teen Challenge rehab?
It reached a point in my life where I thought I gave God an ultimatum. It's either He saves me or He takes me away. Because I had tried suicide, I think 3 times, and it didn't work. Tried burning myself. I tried swallowing pills, it didn't work. And I tried drinking myself to death, it didn't work. So I gave God an ultimatum. I said, God, it's either you change me or you take me away, because I was already tired with this life. And that's when I met, my mom met this guy called Dirangu, who told my mom about Teen Challenge. And they came, took me from the club where I was, because now I was not even living at home. I went living in a club. Now everything of mine had finished. All my friends were shot. I was left one man standing. I was left alone. And I went to live in a bar, inside a bar. And that is where they came and found me and told me and asked me to come to Teen Challenge. First I was taken to Madare Mental Hospital, then to Teen Challenge.
Ndirangu.
Yes.
What's your relationship with Ndirangu?
Dirangu is a friend of my mom.
What's his role at Teen Challenge?
Right now, he too was a drug addict, but right now he's a director of Teen Challenge Nairobi Men's Center.
Diana, listening to you, Ndirangu sounds like your source of hope. Like you said, the man who came and helped you and picked you up from where he found you to bring you to this rehab, and now you are the way you are. So nataka sai to take a short break. Tukirudi, tutaongea na Ndirangu. We just hear from him more of your story. So Saturday Confessions will take a short break right now. When we return, we talk to this gentleman, Ndirangu, find out a little bit about him and how he discovered Diana and was able to bring her to this particular place from that place where he met her years back. So don't go too far. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is Saturday Confessions with me, Liangari. Today we are talking to Dana Naswa, who mentioned in the first part of the show today that she was in prostitution, drug abuse, and of course also crime. And before we took a break, she mentioned that she met a gentleman who is the reason why she was able to recover from her state then to what she is now. I want us to hear from Dirango now and find out a little bit about him, as also we find out how he discovered her. Dirango, Dana considers you as a man who brought hope and change in her life. How did you meet Diana?
I met Diana through a neighbor of mine who owns a pub where Diana used to drink. And she told me about this lady who had drunk herself, and she was in a very bad state, and he needed her to be assisted because she had reached a place that was very dangerous. She wanted to be helped, but she didn't know how. So she told me about Diana. I got to meet Diana one day in that pub. I talked to her. Then she connected me to Diana's mom, and we called Diana's mom. We met Diana's mom, and we arranged on how Diana could be assisted.
What was Diana's reaction to you when you approached her?
Diana's reaction was she wanted help. She was desperate for help because where she was in a very bad state.
When you say a bad state, how was she?
She was very thin, dirty, and the person that you see today was not the person I saw that day. Yes.
When you remember how she looked that time, your description of her, she was thin, she was dirty. What was going through your mind when you saw her in that state?
I saw a person who needed help, a person who was desperate, a person who had reached rock bottom and wanted to be helped. So that's why I came in, because she was desperate.
So now you've met Diana, you've talked to the mother. What happened next?
We arranged on how she can be taken to Madara Mental Hospital for detoxification, because there is no way we can bring you to Teen Challenge where there are no doctors when you have not dealt with their withdrawal symptoms. So we took her there so that we can deal with the withdrawal symptoms, which were very severe at that time. So she was taken there to be admitted so that we can help her come to Teen Challenge.
Her journey in Mathare, were you involved directly?
Yes, I used
what
to come.
What was it like?
Mathare is not a good place because before I came to Teen Challenge, my parents took me there. And it's not a good place. It's where people, you see guys who are mad, guys who are not okay. And when you hear that name really scares you because it is associated with mad people. So when she heard she was going there, she was not ready. She was not happy. She didn't want to go, but I had a way to convince her to accept it because of my story.
When you look at the journey of Mathare, how was she able to come out now and be able to end up in this Teen Challenge rehab? Because you said no one comes here unless they've gone through detoxification. So how long did it take her, and at what point did she now manage to get access to Teen Challenge rehab?
Okay, she was in Madara Mental Hospital, I think, for 2 weeks. Then, after she dealt with her withdrawal symptoms, I had promised her I'm taking her to a place where I received help so that she can also be assisted. And she was looking forward to go to that place because she was tired of staying in Madara. Yeah.
She mentioned you are the director of Teen Challenge. How did you end up being the director? Because you mentioned that you were also a drug addict and you were brought here to Teen Challenge rehab. Tell me about that.
I came to Teen Challenge 2008, desperate, destroyed, and I was looking for help because I'm a son of a pastor who had gone into drugs and alcohol big time until I reached a point that nobody wanted to be associated with me. My parents were scared of me because of the things I used to do. nikapiga mmoja akaingia kwa mtano. Nilimpiga kitu inaitwa left hook. Mtano. Sawa, wakanikanyaga mbaya. Wakanipiga chain na nyuma niwanipelekea stage.
Ulikuwa mtaa gani?
Huruma. Urusile inasewa nob. So when I went to Mathare, I was told about Teen Challenge when in Mathare, and I accepted to come because I had reached the dead end. And I came to Teen Challenge 2008, completed the program 2009, went for internship and study in South Africa and Swaziland, then came back. It has been a journey in Teen Challenge. I was a teacher, started teaching, started engaging with the student. Up to this time, God promoted me to be the program director of the Men's Center, Kiambu.
Diana, you know, listening to your description of her, thin, dirty, looking helpless and hopeless. When you look at her journey now in Teen Challenge Rehab, what have you witnessed about her change and her, you know, evolution from where she was to what she is now?
The truth is that Diana is a different person to the person that I saw the first day, because Diana has added weight. She's more beautiful. She has hope. She was hopeless at that time, but now she has a lot of hope, and she's helping other ladies in the ladies center who are addicted like her. She's a good example. She's a role model to them because of where she was and where she is right now.
Ndirango, thank you for sharing your part of the story. It's always good to know, I mean, from a different lens, the person's testimony and the narration of your story, of her story, hearing it from you, speaks of the fact that it was not as easy to get out, but thank you for making time and sharing your side and, you know, her story through your eyes. I want us to take a short break. We'll bring Diana back to hear a little bit more about her story and then hear about what she hopes to become in the future. Thank you. All right. Saturday Confessions will take a mini break. I want us to come back to Diana and hear the rest of her story. What is she up to now? And of course, it doesn't sound like it's been an easy journey, but we want to hear a little bit more about her journey and where she hopes she will be at the end of, well, her journey of life. Let's take a short break. Don't go too far. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is Saturday Confessions. Today, we are talking to Diana Naswa, who is a lady sharing her story about her former life in prostitution, crime, and drug addiction. And before we took a break, we spoke to a man she considers a hero, a source of hope for her life, who helped her to become what she is now. And Diana, before we took a break and, started talking to Ndirango, coming back to Ndirango, he tells us, your journey was not easy. First of all, amesema kwamba when you were told you're going to Mathare Mental Hospital, it was not something you wanted to do. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think I wasn't told about going to Mathare, but they tricked me into going to Mathare Mental Hospital. And I fall into that trick. And when I got to Mathare Mental Hospital, I found my mom there, my aunt there, and I was taken there by the police of Huruma. So, Huruma police station. So, when I reached there, I asked them why have they brought me in Mathare? And they just told me they wanted me to check my temperature and everything, but I knew they were lying. And at the back of my mind, I was thinking, I had these many questions. I was thinking maybe they think I'm mad, or maybe I thought maybe yesterday that when I was drunk, maybe I did something to trigger for them to bring me to Mathare. I was not clear on why or what I was doing in Mathare. Yes.
So looking at the Mathare Mental Hospital, the environment, how are they able to convince you to stay there?
They didn't convince me to stay there. I did some distraction there, and then they gave me a stopper.
What's a stopper?
Shindano fulani, they wanadunga mad people au wenda wazimu. So they gave me a stopper.
The following day you wake up, you're in Mathare Mental Hospital.
Yeah, so
what
I woke
happened?
up the following day, and I found myself in this ward, about 30 or 40 mad people, everyone talking their own things, and I'm like, what am I doing here? And the doctors there, I'm asking them, can you kindly help me? Why am I doing here? At the back of my mind, I know that I'm not a mad person, but I don't know what I'm doing in Mathare. Until later, when I was told that I came there for detox, but because I created a lot of commotion, that's why I was taken to that ward. So I was taken to Mathare for detox.
How did you come to terms with just now accepting that you have to stay in Mathare Mental Hospital to get further help?
No, I didn't accept to be in Mathare. It's because I didn't have a choice or how I can get out of there. I never accepted to be in Mathare. I never wanted to be there. But the place was locked, and there was no escape route. So I just decided to be there because there was no escape route.
Would you have escaped if you had a chance to escape?
Yes, I would have escaped. I would.
Did you try to escape?
There was nowhere I could have even tried. I was looking everywhere, but there was no where I could. It's very secured.
When you look back at that experience, would you say it was good for your family to take you there and get you help? Do you consider it something that helped you along the way, or is something that you really dread until this day?
I really, really thank God that I stayed there. The stay was worth it, because today I'm sober. I know Christ because I stayed there. I got the help that I needed there. Yeah, because by the time I was going to Mathare, I was 40 kgs. As I told you earlier, that my health had really deteriorated.
In Mathare, how old were you?
In Mathare, I was 30 years.
So this is about 6 years ago.
Yes.
Your last day in Mathare, tell us about that particular day when you knew, now this is my last day and I'm now being released from Mathare.
In my last day in my Madare, the day before Pastor, there's a pastor called Pastor Dingo or Countryman Kaboti who came and talked to me about coming to Teen Challenge. And I accepted coming to Teen Challenge. First of all, I wanted also, coming to Teen Challenge was not because I wanted really to change, but I really wanted to gain some weight.
So your motivation of coming to Teen Challenge Rehab was because you wanted to gain weight?
Yeah, I wanted to gain weight because, you know, mtaani, everyone was talking about me, everyone was laughing, and I wanted to come back, just say for like a bit, 3 months or 4, gain some weight and then have a comeback, like to show them that I'm back.
Are you back now?
No.
Have you shown them you're back?
No, in Teen Challenge I found Christ. This class, I'd like us to introduce ourselves, all of us. So, starting from, yes.
Meaning that it's no longer about what people think about you.
Yes, it's no longer what people think about me or say about me, but it's what Christ says about me.
When you look back at your life then, what's the one memory that you remember that you probably will never forget during your years in crime?
During my years in crime, one thing that I will never forget is one day it was at night, we went to Umoja Estate, and our plan was just to rob people. And I remember a pastor came out of Umoja Deliverance Church. I'll never forget that church. He was coming out of church, and at the back of our minds, we thought that he is carrying the offerings of the church. And then we smuggled him and robbed him. And the way he was crying for help and everything, that scenario really touched my heart, because everywhere I would go, I'll remember him. I'll see him crying for help. That is the only scenario that I will never forget in my life.
And if you look back, you know, during that time when you had attacked this gentleman, did you guys decide to release him at one point?
Yes, we let him go, but the fact that we had robbed him and we had thrown him in the mud, he was dirty, he was carrying a Bible. The Bible, he didn't even live with his Bible. The Bible, he left it here, there where we robbed him. And that is the only scenario that I really, really regret. Yes, I regret other things that I've done, but you know, there are things that you say, I wish I never did it. Yes.
Now you're here at the Teen Challenge Rehab Center. Tell us about your life here and how being here in this rehab has helped you.
After Teen Challenge, after the program, the 1 year program, I went to Bible school, which is KAG East University, where I'm doing theology. I was to graduate in June 10th this year. I came back, started working here and helping other ladies to walk through this journey of addiction, because I have been through there and I know the difficulties, and I decided to come back and help other ladies through this journey. And I have seen so many people come in and go out and become better people.
You're married now?
There.
So while you're here at the rehab, when you look at your journey, what really helped you in your journey of recovery during your time here, when you were just one of the people coming here to get assistance?
One thing that really helped me here is the fact that this rehab is a Christian rehabilitation center. They offer Christ in the morning, Holy Spirit in the afternoon, and God in the evening. So being a Christian rehabilitation center, there's more of God here. There's more of God here. So when you allow God to work in your life, like I allowed God to work in my life, God really brought a lot of change in my life. First of all, God brought my family back. My family accepted me back. And second of all, my friends accepted me back. And thirdly, my community accepted me back, knowing that I was living this life of crime. No one wanted to be close to me, but God restored everything. My community accepted me, my family accepted me back, and my friends accepted me. And now I have a family. Yes. No, I'm dating. Yes.
Well, Diana, looking at your journey, it's been one that has been filled with, like you mentioned earlier on, mostly hopelessness. For someone right now who's watching you and is in some sort of addiction, not just drug addiction, but any other kind of addiction, and they're trying to get help, what can you tell them?
One thing that I always tell people is that no problem is bigger than God. Only that. No problem is bigger than God. They should just allow God and let God deal with that problem.
Where can they get help? Because beyond spirituality and beyond knowing God, where do they begin in their journey of recovery?
First of all, to start with the journey of recovery, you have to accept that you have a problem and ask people for help. And you can come in a place like Teen Challenge of Kenya, because I found Jesus in Teen Challenge of Kenya. They too can find hope in Teen Challenge. Yes.
Well, that has been Diana Naswa's story, right from crime, drug abuse to prostitution, and now she's a lady set to change one life at a time. This has been Saturday Confessions with me, Liangari. So as always, it's a pleasure to have you join us, and I must mention that next week we get to talk to Diana's mentor, the man who helped her move from where she was to the person that she is now. So tune in next week, same time, same place, TV47 at 8 p.m. for Saturday Confessions. My name again is Liangari. Until next week, God bless.